Hey legends, welcome to the Connect podcast,
A no BS approach to connecting people,
connecting businesses, connecting communities.
and connecting successes. Connection is why we're here.
Now, as I rode my little bike down there, I would go past more paddocks than I did buildings. It was
So going back quite some
You're
time.
going back a long time, and it was
Yeah.
another 30 years after that before there were any lights.
Your torch.
Yeah, absolutely. It was suggested to me by advertising magnate John Singleton, why don't you talk to Balmain? And I said, but we're not that close together. And he said, well, we can help to make it close together. They were adjoining. And against the odds, I negotiated that joint venture and put it together. And I do remember the parade was led by a couple of police officers whose name I won't mention this day. But me and a couple of my mates decided to throw a few eggs, and we were caught out.
Jim, a favourite quote?
Yeah. There are two great cities in the world, Campbelltown and Rome.
Love it.
That's a great one, Ted. We'll start the podcast with that.
So today, welcome to the Connect podcast. We've got a very special guest on the show, senior partner of Marsdens Law Group, Jim Marsden. Now, Jim, decades in the industry, a legend in the Macarthur area, scaling multiple locations across Sydney, supporting charities and organisations over the years with a focus on community and service. Jim, welcome to the show.
Thanks very much, fellas.
Good to have you on, mate. A OG, a legend of the area. You know, we see your face on the side of buses, on billboards. You see you everywhere. So we thought we'd get you on and find out more about you. You know, we see little glimpses of you, and I think a lot of the audience must hear your name everywhere as well. So we want to find out about the real Jim and really get into your history. Like, you know, one interesting thing that I found out is that you grew up in a pub before you got yourself into law. So we'd like to hear more about that, if that's okay.
You know, I did grow up in a pub, and so did my father, and so did my mother. And you know where? In the Macarthur region. Them, me, my brothers, two brothers and three sisters. We all grew up in the Macarthur region. So what happened actually was that my dad was the son of a publican at Liverpool, the old commercial hotel at Liverpool. My mum was the daughter of publicans at Camden and Campbelltown. And in 1950, the year I was born, I don't mind mentioning that, in 1950, Mum and Dad had been out doing other work rather than hotel work. And my grandfather, the late Herb Lack, also his actual name was James Herbert Lack, after whom I'm named. I'm James Herbert, known as Jim. And he decided that he couldn't do it anymore. He was getting a bit old and a bit tired. And so my father took over the business for him and then eventually bought the business from him. And they did that in 1950. And so a few months after that, after they started, I was born in Campbelltown. I wasn't actually born at a hospital in Campbelltown. I was born at a hospital in the city, but my birthplace is Campbelltown.
Yeah. So you've always had a passion for this community, this area, and staying focused in this area?
Look, it's no longer just Campbelltown that I focus on.
Yeah.
It's Macarthur. And you guys are talking about Macarthur, but I can tell you it's going beyond Macarthur to southwest Sydney now. And that's what I think in business these days. It's good and it's important for me back 50 years ago when I went into the business with my brother John. It was important to focus on Campbelltown. But then we decided, no, it's not just about Campbelltown, it's about the Macarthur region, the whole of the Macarthur region. And that's what we're talking about today. But it's more than that now. Yeah. And in the future, it's going to be a great deal more.
Well, I did hear, that there was a requirement that you had to live in Campbelltown to work at Marsdens. I'm guessing that went away quick.
Well, it didn't go. You're about to say quickly. It never went quickly. It was important to me to employ people that lived in the area. Now, it was preferable that they came from the area, but if they didn't come from the area, we said, you've got to move into the area. And the reason for that is you've got to know the area.
Yeah.
You've got to know the people. And you've got to grow to love it. And if you don't grow to love it, you're not going to give back as much as we expected people to do.
Jim, before we go on the business journey, because it's such a powerful story, what was Jim like growing up? You know, as a young pup. You know, what was Jim known for then?
What formed?
I was known for being a cheeky, naughty little kid. A couple of times in trouble with the local police, but only in the manner where you get a kick in the bum. Nothing too serious. The town I loved. My memory goes back to probably the age of 5, and there's probably some reconstructed memories amongst that, and probably some reconstructed memories from the age of 4. But just as an example, the pub was called Lack's Hotel. There was James Herbert Lack, and that was on the corner of Railway Street and Queen Street, opposite Mawson Park.
Okay.
Right, so you know where we are.
Yep.
There was a bakery down at the corner of Demerrick and Queen Street. Corner of Demerrick and Queen Street is where our principal office is.
Yep.
Now, if you've walked down Queen Street, you know that all of that is built out, absolutely built out. I used to go from the pub, Lack's Hotel, down to the bakery, owned by the Warby family. Roy Warby's still around in the area, accountant in the area, not doing much work these days though. I used to go from there down to Warby's on my push bike to pick up the bread supplies for the day for the pub. Now, as I rode my little bike down there, I would go past more paddocks than I did buildings.
Wow.
So
And that's a main strip
that
of
was
Campbelltown.
the main strip of Campbelltown. It was
So
another,
going back quite some time.
going back a long time, and it was another 30 years after that before there were any lights, traffic lights there. I went
Had your torch.
yeah, absolutely. I went to St John's Primary School, which is still in the same location. I walked to school from the age of about 6. And I mean, you don't think about that these days. That's about a kilometre a bit walk. But I walked to school from the age of about 6, did so with my mates, and absolutely had a ball as a kid. The Fishers Ghost Festival was still happening. We used to climb onto the veranda and the veranda roof of our pub, because it was right in Queen Street, to watch Fishers Ghost Festival pass by. I told you I get into trouble occasionally. I do remember on one of the occasions the parade was led by a couple of police officers whose name I won't mention this day. But me and a couple of my mates decided to throw a few eggs at some of the
As you do.
displays of the place.
As you do when you see a police
As you do, and we were caught out. And we did get a kick in the bum.
So was getting into law more so to fight the law or to be...
None of my desire to practice law came from any of my behaviour
Yeah.
beforehand, under any circumstances.
Well, what was the initial desire to then transition into law, Jim?
Well, I wasn't transitioning into law. I was a kid. I'd say you transition into teenagers, and then you transition into adult.
Was that always a desire to do that? Or?
Well, look, this might sound stupid, but I actually used to watch Perry Mason on TV, and I thought to myself, geez, I wouldn't mind doing that. I don't mind a chat. I don't mind standing up in front of people, and I don't mind defending people. Now, I'm not a criminal lawyer anymore, but when I started with my brother in Campbelltown, I was a criminal lawyer right from the start. In fact, a general practitioner. Which
Campbelltown's the place to be for that, right?
Yeah, Campbelltown, I don't know how you mean that, Ron, but we had good business.
Yeah.
That's one way to put it.
So 1968, Marsdens established as a one-man operation.
Yeah.
To now 6 offices across Sydney with 175 staff. Like, was that ever a foresight that it was going to scale to something of that size?
We never actually put numbers on where we're going to be in 10 years or 20 years. We do look at what we're going to be doing this year, next year, 5 years. And we look at where we may end up in 10 years and 15 years. So to say back in 1968 or 1972 when I started with John, to say that we foreshadowed or predicted that we would be where we are now wouldn't be correct. But to say that we knew that we were going to grow and continue to grow would be correct. And to say that we worked out how to do that is also correct. So if you look at a lot of the firms that are around 50 years ago, a lot of the law firms that were around 50 years ago, they just don't exist anymore. Some of them still exist, but they're flattened. And I don't want to mention any names under any circumstances because we've had some really, really good lawyers and law firms in the Macarthur region. But to continue to grow, you've got to be aware of change. You've got to be prepared to accept change. You've got to also be prepared to put on the right people at the right time, and sometimes before it's the right time, before you can afford it. You've got to be prepared to promote partners. At the moment, we have 17 equity partners. That is 17 owners of the business. And we have, I think it's another 8 partners, so 25 partners.
Wow.
The other 8 are not necessarily owners of the business. And then we've got associates, senior associates, and then lawyers, and of course all of the support staff. So we did look ahead. We didn't say that in 2024 we'll be 170 people, but we did say we're going to continue to grow because if we don't grow, we will eventually die.
Hearing you talk about the other law firms in the area and how Marsdens stayed strong through the years and the others just sort of drifted away. What do you think was the glue that held Marsdens together and pushed through those years?
I just want to correct it. I'm not being critical of any firms or lawyers because, as I said, we've had some great firms.
And it might be a personal choice for them to have scaled back.
Absolutely. Oh, it might be a personal choice not to grow, not to put more partners on.
Even a business decision. Some people start like staying as a one-man band.
Absolutely, absolutely. So from our point of view, the actual focus on growth was, I think, separated us from a lot of others. We focus, of course, you've got to focus on your essentials. You've got to look at the core that makes your business work, and you've got to do that and get it right. And you don't always get it right. But we were also focused on growth. In the early days, our focus was on geographical growth. You mentioned 6 offices. We had 9 offices at one stage. And at that stage, our early growth was on geographical growth. We were at Mittagong and Barrel and all over the place. That was not probably the best plan, but it gave us some ideas for the future. What happened to us was that we said the geographical growth is good and it gets your name out there. There's no doubt about that, and it gets the clients in. But it doesn't generate additional profit. It then obviously generates additional fees, but with that comes the expenses. And it doesn't generate additional expertise. And if you compare us then, way back then, to a city firm, what the city firms were doing was specialised areas of law. And non-city firms were not doing specialised areas of law. So now we have a lot of lawyers that only know one area of law. In some ways, that's not great, but mostly it is fantastic because you've actually got a specialist that's as good as any specialist from a city, and I mean any capital city, as good as any specialist from there, and you're doing it with a different sort of a feel, with a little bit more heart, a little bit more knowledge of the area, a little bit more knowledge of the people. And in addition to that, our expenses aren't as high and our fees aren't as high. Yeah. And I don't want this to be an advertisement for Marsdens. No. I'm just talking general.
I think it's that care factor that comes into it as well. You know, you want that feeling of a big city lawyer where you know the quality, the technical capabilities are there, but you also want to feel like they care about you. And I think you creating that environment with Marsdens is a testament to how you continue to evolve and grow in this day and age as well.
One of our core values, you talk about care, that translates to service, and it translates also to an understanding, but one of our core values is community, and has been always community. And I think my brother and I inherited that from mum and dad at the pub. Mum and dad, firstly, they were great at service. They were good at producing good beer as well. Yeah. But they also were involved in their community right from the very start. My mother was instrumental in, or she'd be cranky with me saying instrumental in, she would like me to say the truth, which was she started the first kindergarten in Campbelltown.
Yeah, wow.
There was not a kindergarten. There were three more kids after me. She had 3 more kids after me. And when I arrived, like I had nowhere to go when I turned 3 or 4, and Mum started the first kindergarten.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah.
Jim, you people that know you and people that know Marsdens know a big core of Marsdens comes down to networking. And it's a big part of how Marsdens grew through the years, and there's a big focus on that. Did you want us to take us through where that came from, how that grew for you and for the company through the years, and what sort of honed that in to begin with? Because I know through Connect Macarthur and through the Macarthur Club and these sorts of things, of course, when you're surrounding yourself with other people in business and building your network, we see the fruits that come out of it. What was your story and how you started in networking?
Okay, I'll forgive me if I digress from time to time.
Also, Pat does ask a number of questions in the one question, so if it is loaded.
If I don't answer them all, come back to them.
Yeah.
Thanks, Ron.
But we're talking about networking. That's what you're basically focusing on now. Look, there's everybody in business, particularly in a region like Macarthur, knows the value of networking. It establishes connections. And I might make a connection with you today at this particular networking event and then see you again in a month's time. And I may not get any legal work from you for 5 years. But that doesn't matter. I've made that connection with the communication. I've made that connection. But I also may not get work from you in 5 years. And this is where another part of the networking comes into play. In a community, we'll talk about Campbelltown then when I first started, yes, you did things to help your business, networking. But it was only partly for that reason. It was also for the community, for the good of the community. Fundraising events that I've done going back literally 45 years was, sure, it gets my name out there, but it was great for the community and for the people that got the benefit of those fundraising events. I was chairman of the Chamber of Commerce in Campbelltown at the age of 28. And
yeah, wow.
The previous chairman, who resigned and allowed me to take over, or went to a vote eventually, he was 63. Now I'm 73 now.
That's quite an achievement.
But that's like, to be frank.
That is the power of networking.
To be frank with you, I was a member of the Chamber of Commerce, and I actually thought that the Chamber of Commerce was not doing enough. I felt that I could do more, and so I pushed myself to do more. Now that was good for my business, obviously, but what I was doing it for was the Chamber of Commerce and the business community of the Campbelltown area, and so one works off the other. So what I was saying about I meet you and then 5 years later I might get some business from you. I'm more likely to get business from you if you see that I'm actually genuine in my commitment to what I'm doing in the community.
Mm. And it's a testament to you, Jim. You know, there's lots that we see on the front line. You've been involved in many different charities, but there's a lot that we don't actually know, that we've heard different stories, from people in passing about yourself. So you've been very active in this community, and I think you should be proud of that, mate. You've built a great legacy with Marsdens, but also your personal legacy, will be long remembered, long after Jim decides to step away from Marsdens, if that ever is eventuated. Is there a time that Jim, you want to do that? Like, have you set a time?
Look, I'm prepared, and I've told my young partners this, I'm prepared to stick around for whatever time, provided, one, that I add value to the firm, continue to add value to the firm, provided, two, that I do in whatever time I spend at the firm, 98% of that is something that I'm really enjoying, and the other 2% can be crap. That's fine. But I don't want to do 20%, 80%. Whether or not it's appropriate for me to continue, I don't do much actual law anymore. I still have people contact me and companies contact me, but the young lawyers that are my partners and associates and senior associates, they're much better technical lawyers than I am by a mile. Mm-hmm. They are fantastic. They may not have the same ability to exercise appropriate judgment as I do, but that doesn't happen overnight. That doesn't happen in university.
Yeah.
That happens from working in a business for 50 years.
Experience.
Yeah.
And I guess getting that team around you is always, what everyone wants, to be able to, you eventually want to be the one that's doing the relationships, being the one that's seen as the face of Marsdens and creating those networks. And you want to have a team of technical experts behind you. How did you get to the point of going, you know what, I've got the team that I trust, and building that to there? Is it working side by side with you, seeing how you do it, or letting them jump into the deep end, working it out themselves?
Combination of all those things, and it's a good question that doesn't have a simple answer. To get good lawyers 30 years ago was extremely difficult. We were perceived as a suburban stroke country firm, and the high achievers at university were looking to go to the high-level city firms. And so we would be their second or third choice. And so therefore it was difficult to do it. Also at that time, you didn't have the Western Sydney University, you didn't have a law school or presence in Campbelltown. University of Wollongong, where we get a lot of graduates now, didn't have a law school at that stage either. Since then, since we've pitched ourselves as higher achievers, and you also pay a bit more money, don't pay as high as the city firms do, but we pay a bit more money than we used to. But you pitch yourself as a high achiever and you start getting the people. In addition to that, as the success grows, a lot of young people are saying, hang on a minute, why do I want to go into the city and I could get the same satisfaction working at a place like Marsdens? And so now it is much easier to get good lawyers and to retain good lawyers. Now, the implication from your question, Ron, suggested that, now I've got the team and I'm right. That's never been the case. We often or always are reviewing the people around us, and with 170 people, you're going to have some that don't fit, and you're going to have some that are a really good fit and they are going to leave, no matter what you do, what your relationship is. What we strive to do is to make sure that we've got a good team at all times. And that doesn't mean we sit back and say, yep, we've got the great team now, we're fine. You don't do that.
Yeah.
So we've got a good team, we're doing it well, we're doing it right. That means we can continue to have a good team with some people coming off, new people coming in, but we still maintain a good team.
It's really great advice.
With a good team, it's I love hearing that, and of course, every business owner that wants to scale wants a good team, and it's easier said than done, and it's very influential hearing that. But in your opinion, given what you've been exposed to in the past and what you've experienced in the company, what do you think are the core fundamentals that hold a good team together?
Yeah, to hold a good team, good leadership is important, and also a recognition of the roles of every member in the team and the significance of their roles. So Jim Marsden's a senior partner. He has a fairly significant role, but it's only one role. Take away the 169 people and Jim's stuffed. Go to our front desk and look at Jamie on the front desk. She answers the switch, she speaks to the people. That is one of the most important things or roles in our business. That person is the face of Marsden. In some cases, the first person that they speak to, the first experience that they see. Yeah. And we make sure that we've got the right person in that role. From time to time we haven't. Right at the moment, I can assure you that we absolutely have. We have other roles that are significant. We've employed a young woman by the name of Jess Cutner from Mater Special School. And we employed her because of my association and my partner John Adams' association with Mater Special School. But what we've got now is a young woman that does a very good job to her capability. Her capability is limited, but she does a very good job to her capability, and she's great to have around the office, and she's part of the actual team. So, those kinds of things, and with 170, I could pick out many, many more examples. But the getting the team to be able to work together, even though, let's say, the criminal team has very little to do with the landed environment and planning team, the reality is that sometimes their jobs do cross over. People in planning and environment transgress the law sometimes to a criminal level. So we've got to look at each other's roles and where we are, and also have a good relationship with between ourselves, particularly between the partners.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned leadership before when I asked what would retain a team, and we talked about leadership heavily on our previous episode, talking about staff and team, and it always comes down to leadership. That's what we found. But what do you think, in your opinion, creates the best leader for a team?
I think a good leader has to be a good example, so that you can't lead by telling people what to do. You have to be giving them an example of what you're doing. And so as your leadership grows, it is not just a leadership by example. It is because of what you have done and what you continue to do, you become an inspiration to the rest of the people that you're leading. Another important factor or quality that a leader must have is the ability to motivate the people that are around him. I mean, you can have people that are good lawyers, you can have people that are good administrators, but if they just come in at 8 o'clock in the morning and leave at 4:30 in the afternoon and do their job, they're not being motivated, and we don't want them around long. We want them to do their job to the best of their ability, but we want them to be enjoying it while they're doing it. And you've got to be able to educate them, inspire them, and as importantly, if not more importantly, motivate them to get up to that level.
And so when you're looking at a equity partner, because you mentioned there's quite a number of equity partners in the business and quite a number of partners at different levels. So are leadership qualities what you're looking at when you're taking them to the next level up, not just they're good at what they do in their current role?
Yeah, look, it gets a bit technical because we do have these various things that we take into account, but I'll try to do it in a bit of a broad brush. Yes, when you're getting up to that level, you have a team below you. So I used a department a moment ago. I used criminal law. It's one of our smaller departments, but it is a department nevertheless. And there is, I think, I can't say don't quote me because you're going to, I'm going to say it myself. I think there are 4 lawyers in that and 3 or 4 administration staff. On the other hand, you've got the property department, and the property department has something like 15, 16 lawyers, and then a commensurate amount, probably about 25, 30 support staff. So the leaders are the people that are running those departments or running a particular office, a branch office, provided that there's the number of workers there and it generates the amount of fees. And they've got to have those qualities. They've got to be able to motivate their people. They've got to be able to organise their people. They've got to be able to show some level of inspiration and show that they are able to do the work that the people below them are doing now. They're able to do it and show them the best way of doing it.
I love that. Jim, 4 kids, 8 grandchildren, married 50 years.
50 years, that's right. Yep.
Congratulations on that. That's a huge achievement. I've watched your phone buzz several times throughout this meeting. I guess the word that comes to mind is balance, right? You know, you've got this beautiful family and also a great firm. How do you balance that work-life partnership?
I'll make a confession and say that I didn't in the early days. I focused on work, but that was part of my generation. That's what we did. That's what we did. Right? So with the people that we got now, our younger partners, and the next level down for me is in their early 50s, and then you're going down to early 30s. And now we do our best to try to encourage that work-life balance. So, and I suppose with a bigger firm, it's easy to do it. When my brother John and I were doing the bulk of the networking, we were just doing so much all over the place. And there were others that were doing their share of it as well, but my brother John and I were doing a massive amount. Now when you've got numbers of people, it's easier to spread that load.
Yep.
But we now encourage our lawyers to get that balance. How you do it is just a realisation of what you must do at work, what you can do at work, and what you must do at home. And what you must do for yourself as well. It's not just, your family. With the intensity of being a lawyer from time to time, you do need a bit of space on your own, but that's up to the individuals. So we encourage them to get that balance, and if we see that balance isn't being achieved, we'll step in. And we step in both ways. If we say, you're really not spending enough time at work, we will say, is there a problem? Let's work it out. Now, if we then see with the opposite, you're spending far too much time at work, that could happen because there is a project that's going to take a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. That could happen, and the individual doesn't have the support. But then you make sure that that's counterbalanced when that project's done.
Now, you did mention also the networking side of things, which has been a huge part of how Marsden's got to where it's got to. What advice would you have for someone that, being now a legend of Macarthur, you probably have a lot of people that want to talk to you at networking events and young guys like myself trying to get into those circles.
Get you on the podcast.
Because I think that's what I did at the Macarthur Club. I was trying to angle closer to you. But you'd probably have a lot of people like that wanting to talk to you, given that you are one of the bigger names in the community. What advice can you give to someone that is a young business owner that wants to network with people that are maybe at the next level of where they are? How can they get into those circles, or what's the ways to approach it without being someone that's seen as annoying?
Firstly,
and if I was, I apologise.
Accept it. Firstly, I prefer the term a big name in the community than legend. I don't think I'm a legend. But yes, I have a prominent name in the community. Look, again, it's trying to get the balance. Yes, I do get lots of requests. This isn't the first podcast I've done. Yeah. And I get requests to speak at events, and I balance them up as much as I can. If I went back 20 years, I wouldn't balance them up. I just say, yep, I'll do that. Now I look at it and say, it could be just, I don't know what sort of following this podcast has. That's not what I was concerned about. You were prepared to come up and have a bit of a chat. You were prepared to say, would you do it? And I said yes. I think I said yes at the time. Or I said, think about it or something.
I think you said maybe, but I took it as a yes, and then we went with
the way it should be done too. And so, I still am prepared to do a lot, but I do knock stuff back a bit now. I didn't knock stuff back 20, 30 years ago.
So you're prepared more now to say no, and you're more comfortable in saying no?
Still not comfortable.
Yeah.
Still not comfortable saying no. Yeah. It's, but the balance work-life demands that I must say no.
Yeah.
Yep.
If you ask my 4 kids, they would say that I spend a lot more time with their kids than I did with them. Mind you, they're all going well anyway.
Yeah.
Thanks to their mum.
What's Jim's biggest win? One that just comes to mind, over the years of being in business, or personal win. What is one of your biggest that you're proud of?
This might sound stupid, but to be honest with you, I am most proud of the fact that I have been married for 50 years to a Campbelltown woman. When I say Campbelltown, she was born in Norway. For 50 years, I have 4 adult kids and 8 grandchildren, and they are all together, which is absolutely fantastic given the amount of time that I spent at work. So I'm extremely proud of that, but that's not something that I have achieved by myself. I just happen to be the father and husband and grandfather.
But that's also the values you've instilled in them, and
it is the value.
It's a flow-on effect.
It is the values. Mm-hmm. If you look at some of the external things, external from the firm that I've been involved in, I was chair of Wests Magpies for 9 years, and I was chair of that during the Rugby League war. And Wests were destined to go, full stop. They had no chance of survival. And the authorities were suggesting that we should set up a joint venture with Canterbury and then a joint venture with Penrith. And I said, look, I'll go and talk to them, but the reality is that we will be not even a partner in that. And I did have talks to them, and I came to that conclusion that no way in the world are we going to be a partner. We'll just be brought in, thank you, we'll take whatever fans you got left and go from there. And then it was suggested to me by advertising magnate John Singleton and former CEO of New South Wales Rugby League, Kevin Humphreys, why don't you talk to Balmain? And I said, but we're not, not that close together. And they said, well, we can help to make it close together. In addition to that, the old boundaries, they were adjoining. And against the odds, I negotiated that joint venture and put it together.
Wow. So the Wests Tigers was formed off the back of some discussions that you were...
It was, I was working during the Rugby League war and during those negotiations unpaid for Wests and Wests Tigers about 40 hours a week.
Wow.
And still doing my job in the firm. It was a very difficult one because many people would rather have seen the Magpies die. Many people say, well, they did because they've gone into a joint venture. But the reality is that they still live as Wests Tigers. You might notice it's not Western Tigers, it's not West Tigers, it's Wests Tigers. Yep. Again, could be the subject of another podcast. Take me at least an hour.
Just a quick version of why it was West as opposed to Western, or...
Oh, well, everybody else that wanted to come in would do Western. I said, well, hang on a minute. When we were talking to Balmain, I said, you're going to want Balmain, but you're also going to want Tigers. Well, you're not getting both. And whilst I love the Magpies, the reality is if you're starting a new venture and you want young people to follow you, then the emblem, the more saleable emblem, is a tiger, not a magpie. Mm-hmm. So we're going to have the tiger. We're not going to have West because we're always known as Wests. And that's what we wanted to be. We are Wests.
Yeah.
And that's it. And you see that they get referred to as Wests and they get referred to as the Tigers.
Tigers, yeah.
Oh, well, for a lot of our viewers that didn't know that story, now you do. Now you know where Wests...
You blokes are too young.
Yeah.
Look,
there was on other things that I am proud of. 20 plus years ago, I was asked to chair the Mater Day fundraising committee, and I've been doing that for 20 plus years. And I don't recall the exact number of dollars we've raised over 20 years, but the first event we raised, I think it was about $60,000. And the last event, the highest we've ever done, not the last one, highest we've ever done was over $400,000.
Wow.
Well done.
I think we've raised close to $6 million, $5 to $6 million.
Well done.
Yeah.
So extremely proud of that.
And what do you see for the future of Macarthur with where it's heading? I guess you've been in Campbelltown where, you said a lot of it was paddock, the main street. Now to see the growth of Macarthur, Campbelltown, the surrounding suburbs, where do you see the future of Macarthur?
If you were in my office, you'd see these great big aerial shots. And one of the aerial shots is the area from where we are now towards the airport. The residential development in that aerial shot stopped at the end of Harrington Park, and Harrington Park wasn't finished. This is only 15 years ago. So in 15 years, you guys know what's there.
Yep.
I was supposed to go over in a chopper this morning, but it's too windy. I'm always watching to see what happens. But if you go over in a chopper at the airport, you will see that's not going to be ready in 2026. It's going to be ready in 2025. They just won't open it till 2026. And so you see that kind of growth happening. That's what I'm saying about Western Sydney, not just Macarthur. In going to the south of us, so that's going north and west. Going to the south of us, you've got the development that's going to happen in Wallandilly. Like you've got Bingara Gorge now, but the development to the south of that is happening, and then to the west of that is going to happen with another town. In the Campbelltown local government area, you've got the development that will happen along Appin Road. And it's already started with the land lease development.
That's right.
That's happened there. So you're going to be talking just in that development when it's eventually realised, probably in about 10, over a period of about 10 to 12 years, probably another 10,000 homes, which equates to 30,000 people. In addition to that, you've got Central Campbelltown. Central Campbelltown has a railway line, as everybody knows, right? And it may have more connections coming from Bradfield and Narellan. That's
The new train lines proposed.
not in my lifetime will it happen, but it may happen. So forget about my lifetime, think about yours, right? So what's going to happen to Central Campbelltown? Central Campbelltown will become a hub. Queen Street should be a lot better than it is now. And I'm not going to try to blame anybody. I'm going to think about the future. Queen Street will be a lot better than what it is now because there will be residential development. There's been one open. I don't know whether you guys have been over there recently. 14-storey residential development on Demerrick Street was opened 2 weeks ago. A local developer, in fact, a Lebanese migrant, who's a good friend and client of mine, Terry Bassel, he said, I'll take the punt, I'll give it a go, and he's done it. Now, that's the first. I noticed today, I walked down Queen Street today, I noticed Campbelltown RSL has started demolishing its site on Queen Street that it owns for its residential. So Campbelltown downtown.
You feel like there's more emphasis now going toward, because it's always been on this side of the bridge, right? It's on this side of the Hume Highway. There's been a lot of focus. Do you feel like there is more focus going back?
Your age says there's always.
Maybe that's probably why, right?
Go back to when I was 5 and I told you Queen Street was paddocks. Everything outside of Queen Street was paddocks. And you look at what happened in Campbelltown happened probably in the late 60s through to the early 80s. You're talking something like 30,000 homes, 25,000 I think it was. So, and then the movement has come over here, some to the back of Canberra, but Campbelltown will go south again. It has already started to happen. And then Wallandilly is also already started to happen. And we will continue going that way towards Bradfield as well.
Jim, are you proud of what's happened in the area over there?
Look, I'm not only proud of what's happened to the area and how fantastic it is and how vibrant it is. I've got a vision of it being, in you guys' lifetime, something different again. I've said to my some of my young lawyers then that when my brother and I were developing the business with others, in particular my business partner John Adam, who's been our managing partner for 40 years, when we were riding a wave, right? So the wave was happening. Now, we were riding it well. We knew what to do. We knew how not to fall off. We knew how to take advantage of it. The next 10 years in this region, Macarthur and southwest Sydney, it's going to be a tidal wave. It's going to be massive. It's going to make the wave that we rode look like a ripple. And so it's just going to be fantastic. And young people like you have everything to gain from it, to take advantage of it. You just got to recognise it.
Yeah. So for someone starting a business, if you look at regions in Sydney, would you say Macarthur is definitely an area where should be considering from a, population growth point of view, a business, or does different regions don't come into it?
Different regions don't enter my head, mate.
Yep.
Macarthur.
Macarthur's number one. It's all about Macarthur.
1, 2, and 3.
Well, that's what I was trying to get you to answer there.
In the interest of time, Pat, you have any more questions for Jim? I wanted to wrap it up with something, but
man, I can speak to you for.
Mate, I think we'll need to get you on again after.
I think you can see that I could keep talking as well.
Yeah, we love it. We love a good chat, Jim. Look, I just wanted to get to know a quick snapshot of Jim. So I put together some questions and they're off the cuff. So I'll just spitball them and you just shoot them. So rugby league team. You follow.
You weren't listening.
Come on.
I was.
Wests Tigers.
I was, but
we need it for the real.
Yeah,
we just really
I've got to hear the name. Beach or country?
Love them both. Live on the beach now at Austinmere.
Nice.
Go to the country on road trips a couple of times a year.
Beautiful spot, Austinmere. First car?
First car was a Toyota Corolla.
No, same as, right? Was it? Yeah, no. Bucket list item that you still want to tick off?
got a massive one. You heard me say my wife was a Campbelltown girl. She was actually born in Norway. At the age of 10, she moved out here. She couldn't speak English. And I have a big thing on my bucket list is to go and spend 5 or 6, 7 weeks in Norway next year.
Yeah, wow.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
My friend recently got married to a Norwegian girl that he started dating before COVID. Now he's changed his whole life and he's looking to move over there.
You move there?
Move there, yeah.
It is a beautiful
Ninos from
country.
school.
Why isn't he living in Macarthur?
Hey,
Jim, sport, growing up, you played.
I played rugby league. I played a bit at schoolboy level. When I say schoolboy level, I played in the same team as Tim Sheens,
Nice.
who coached Wests Tigers and Canberra and everybody else. But the sport that I love most, two sports now. One is skiing that I took up in my early 20s, and I spent a lot of time skiing, snow skiing. I did water skiing as well. I actually did an episode of Skippy as a water skier.
Okay.
We'll
need to get that.
1968.
We'll need to try to get that out so we can clip it right here if we can find the footage.
And I've recently taken up and fallen in love with golf.
Nice.
Nice.
Two more. Beer or wine?
Both.
Okay.
Both.
And one thing we didn't know about Jim, I think he just told us, but one thing.
What's a fun fact?
Yeah,
What's
fun
a
fact. Fun fact.
Something people
Putting you
don't
on
know
the
about
spot
you.
here.
Party trick or something, Jim.
If you can do a party trick right now, we might get another 1,000.
I don't have. There's no really fun single fun fact. I just try to be myself at all times. You talk about me being a legend. I don't mind being a big name. I'm not a bloody legend.
Yeah.
But I do like people. I suppose that's the only thing.
I think when I say it as well, it comes across as not only are you a big name, but you're just very down to earth. And when I first spoke to you, there was that intimidation factor because all you hear is your name, right? But when I spoke to you, you're just so down to earth. And when I say legend, like for me, that's a legend. Someone that is a big name, but being able to
Have a good conversation.
Yeah.
being down to earth comes first to me, and people come first to me.
Yep.
Yeah.
Nice.
And is that why you've continued to have a lot of relationships, like say, because I know you speak to you still keep in contact with the Wests Tigers, a couple of big names there. I think you're still probably taking phone calls off the coaches and the team
Moment,
there.
maybe they need to call you.
I don't do that. I do speak to Barry O'Farrell occasionally.
Yeah.
Just occasionally.
Maybe we're trying to get Benji on the show, so maybe if you can help us out with that.
A good idea. Let him focus on his coaching for a little while.
Maybe at the end of the
Yeah.
season. And last one, Jim, a favourite quote. You have a favourite quote that comes
I
to mind?
don't. Yes. Yeah. There are two great cities in the world, Campbelltown and Rome.
Love it.
Oh, that's a great one.
Perfect way to
We'll
finish
start the podcast with that, and we'll end with that.
I must admit that was my brother who said that
Yeah.
45 years ago.
Yeah, well.
Okay.
So, Jim, just want to say massive thank you for spending time with us on the Connect podcast. You know, you to us, you are a legend, although, you know, you want to
might
be
not
called a
think
big name. We're proud to have you on the show. We believe in legacy as a team, and we believe that, you know, our generation is carrying the torch for the guys who passed it down, and to us, you're one of them. So big thank you to you, Jim, and we will invite you back on the show. Hopefully when the Tigers are doing a bit better, and we'll get you back on.
But if for anyone that wants to contact you, you probably your social media handles. Do you have any?
Look, let me tell you, yes, of course we've got social media, but if somebody calls my office and asks for me, I take the call.
Yeah.
Simple as that. I don't hide my mobile phone number. I'm not advertising for business. I'm not going to give you my mobile phone number, but I don't hide it. I don't hide it. I'm always available.
Yeah.
And I think that's just a true testament to how down to earth Jim is.
Yeah. Any last words you'd like to say?
I just thank you very much, boys. And if you want me again, give me a bit of notice. And we
Thanks,
might do
Jim.
it.
Thank
Good
you
on
for
you,
your
buddy.
time.
Thanks for
mate.
joining us,
Thanks,
mate.
guys.
All right. We'll see you guys on the next episode. Thank you, Jim, for joining us. Take care.
Thanks.
We made this a free platform because we want to educate and add value to your business world. All we ask for as a payment is to hit the subscribe button and share it with people that you know would benefit from this conversation. If you want to elevate your connections, we'll see you at the next Connect Macarthur event.